session. So welcome everyone for this session. I would invite the first speaker to upload this PowerPoint presentation. So my name is Yannick Perez. I am the General Conference Chairman of this session, and I replace the last speaker, which has been invited to go to another session because you were 4 in this session and there were only 2 in the other session. Then it's more balanced to have more time for sharing ideas and remarks and comments with only 3 speakers. It's usually more comfortable. So who's starting?
I think I am.
Okay, great, Daniela, sorry. Could you upload your slides, please?
Yes, just a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Let's just here. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good morning. My name is Daniella Silva, and I'm going to present the paper Innovation Ecosystem of Second Generation Ethanol. This paper was written by me and my co-workers, José Vitor Bomtempo and Flávia Alves. The main motivation for this paper is the need for renewable raw material. Concerns regarding the environmental consequence of greenhouse gases emissions had led several countries to redefine their economies to achieve a more sustainable goals. So here we have some examples of plans, reports, and strategies towards this more sustainable economy. To achieve this new economy, or some will call the bioeconomy, biofuels will play a very important role. And among biofuels, second generation ethanol has stand out. Second generation ethanol can be obtained from non-food raw materials such as sugarcane and bagasse or straw. Here we have some examples of traditional process to produce ethanol, or we can call first generation ethanol. So here we have, for example, sugarcane or corn. And in the beginning of the process, what we need to do is to extract some sugars from this material to promote a fermentation of these sugars. After that, we promote a distillation, and we have here the first generation ethanol. To get the second generation ethanol, for example, here from straw, we need to get these sugars. So we need to add some new steps, new technologies here, like pretreatment and hydrolysis, to get these sugars and to promote the fermentations. But these fermentations is also a little bit different, because here we have a different kind of sugar. We call it C5. It's a different chemical structure. These sugars has a different chemical structure, and we need here a different kind of yeast to promote this fermentation. So we have here in this box steps that need to be added to the process to get to the second generation ethanol. Here are some challenges. For example, you need to access this raw material. Sometimes, for example, for straw, you need to go into the field to collect this straw and to storage this material. So it's a new kind of logistics. We can also develop new varieties. For example, in Brazil, we have the energy can. It's a more resistant type of can and have a higher cellulosic content. Of course, you have to transform this material. We need to decide which technology is the best for process to transform this material into the biofuel. And also we need to understand how to sell it, because we can, of course, mix the first generation ethanol with the second generation and sell it in a traditional distribution chain. But we also can separate the second generation ethanol and sell it in a specific market that will pay a premium price for this more sustainable biofuel. So we needed to decide how to sell it. So the goal of this paper is to understand how the structuring process of the second generation ethanol ecosystem has been developing. We focus here on the main challenge faced by the companies, the projects, and the modes of competitions and cooperations between the players. And these results will help us to assist decision makers and entrepreneurs in the development of a low carbon economy or a bioeconomy. To help us with that, we used this approach, the innovation ecosystem approach. An innovation ecosystem is a set of collaborative and competitive arrangements through which companies from different knowledge domains combine the individual offerings into a coherent, customer-focused solutions. So here we have some characteristics of an innovation ecosystem. For example, no sectoral boundaries, traditional industrial boundaries. The focus here is on co-evolution between partners from different industries. This means different knowledges. And this approach is mostly used for new technologies and new ecosystems. Here we have a summary of the methodology process. We conducted a case study with 6 commercial projects from 6 different companies. And we started with a data survey and a data analysis from different kind of sources like reports, press releases, and websites, and of course, papers. And in parallel, we had this, we conducted this literature review on innovation ecosystems. And we highlighted 5 key dimensions to help us to understand this structuring process. After that, we started the first round of interviews with second generation ethanol experts. Among this group, we had some experts that were directly connected to the projects. And we studied this material and we get what we call a partial result. So we worked on this first result. And after that, we showed this material, this result for the expert for a validation, of these 5 dimensions. So we made some little changes here and we got our final result. So here we have a summary of these 6 projects. We have Granbio and Raizen from Brazil, Poet, Abengoa, and Dupont from USA, and Beta Renewables from Italy. And here we have some information about these projects like capacity, capex, raw material, conversion technology, and status. So as you can see here, unfortunately, 3 of these projects are no longer active. So we studied the 6 projects, but of course we have more information about the 3 that remains active. So in this paper, we have 2 kinds of information that when 2 kinds of results. We have individuals results for each focal ecosystems, like for each project. For example, we have the timeline, the ecosystem structure, and the value blueprint of each project. So for example, for the here the value blueprint, I've just put some explanation here. Value blueprint here is a visual tool that help us to understand the company's business model. So it's a picture that we draw, that we studied to understand the company's strategy, for example. So we have these individuals results, but we also have these general ecosystems, and this general analysis we consider all the 6 projects together. So here we have first result, where we have the history of this 2 generation ethanol innovation ecosystem. We can see here that between 2012 and 2013, we have a lot of publications and informations about the business opportunities, the ethanol opportunities, and also information about ecosystem structuring, like partnerships and agreements. In 2014, we started to see publications about the challenges that the companies have faced. In 2015, we started to see informations and news about deactivated projects. And we also see here, we also can see here this yellow curve showing us the evolution and co-evolution of these projects. And these yellow curves represents the news about the solutions found by companies to deal with these challenges. So this is what we call evolution and co-evolution. I said earlier that we chose 5 key dimensions of analysis. These dimensions are evolutionary stage. We can have 4 evolutionary stages: birth, expansion, leadership, and renewal or death of the ecosystem. We have different kind of strategy, innovation, ecosystem strategies. We had an analysis about challenges, the ecosystem structure, and value blueprint. So the evolutionary stage, we have birth, and we observed that cooperation between focal ecosystems played a more important role than competition. The company sought cooperation to solve main challenges posed by innovation. We also have some information about strategies. So for example, here we have 4 components that use the keystone strategy. The keystone strategy is basically when a company does not possess all the skills, all the competence that is needed to promote the innovation. So it needs to develop partnerships to access these skills. And the keystone plays a role like to guide this ecosystem into the future, and it controls the ecosystems. We also have a different kind of strategy, we call it domination, where the company already possess lots of these skills and competence and try to depend a little less in partners. We also have information about challenges. I have some examples here, and we separate this challenge in competitive challenges and cooperative challenge. For example, we have here competition between production models, independent plants or integrated production. Because here you can decide if you want an integrated industrial plant to produce only 2nd generation ethanol, or you can try to integrate the production and the same facility will produce 1st and 2nd generation ethanol. We also have a kind of competition here for exclusive suppliers, mainly for enzymes and yeasts. As an example of cooperative challenge, we have here tropicalization of technology, mostly by the Brazilian companies. The companies also faced some challenge involving storage, fires in warehouses. So Granbio and DuPont had this problem. And also some problems regarding handling genetically modified microorganisms, especially in the Brazilian case. We also have some information about structure of the ecosystems. So here we identify some factors that influences this structure. So here we have, for example, when a company was a startup, it made more partnerships than when it was an incumbent. And we also have information about the goals of the company. For example, here we have companies that had greater interest in the process and other companies greater interested in the product. This is because the 2nd generation technology, mostly fermentation, you can produce biofuels, of course, ethanol, but you also can produce chemicals like bioplastics, biochemicals. And for chemical companies like DuPont, of course, it wants to produce ethanol, but they had a huge interest in the process because they are looking for the production of other types of products like chemicals. For Raízen, that is a energy company, of course, the greater interest was in the product, the second generation ethanol. We also have some information about the value blueprint, but the key message here is that to face the challenges, company needed to change, to adapt, to face these challenges. So none of the companies managed to achieve everything that they promised in 2012. So reconfiguration was needed in most of the cases. So to conclude, why these results matter, why these results are important. First, the results draw attention to the risks of innovation and especially co-innovation. And also reaching the commercial plant stage does not necessarily indicate the end of the innovation process. So lots of companies face a challenge and they need to seek for new knowledge, even though they had a commercial plant, industrial plant. And finally, I think is the main message here, the cooperation played a key role in this ecosystem, in this new second generation ethanol ecosystems. So that's it. This is my email. If you have some questions, if you want the full paper or any kind of questions about this research. Thank you very much. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. So is there questions coming from the participants? No questions. So I will try to come up with a question around the issue of innovation, co-innovation, and cooperation for innovation. We see that it's really what everybody's looking for. And it's very complicated to find examples in which it works. Not only on energy, but just on general. I have seen multiple tries. I have tried to organize some of them, but in the majority of the case, in one moment in the project, someone takes the lead. So one company takes the lead, buy the others, and make an hold up of everything. Or the project collapse because no one does that type of okay, we go and stabilize and do the thing. So my question or my comments or my remark, I don't know in which in which line is do you think in the case of the you are dealing with, we could come up with this type of reflection about trying to find who will be the, let's say, the more gifted or the more interested in taking the lead in this innovative process to go through. We see it for hydrogen, we see it for wind, we see it for solar. Everybody says, okay, you need an ecosystem going from universities to investors to banks, etc. And in one moment of time, the Chinese says, okay, we go for nuclear, we go for wind, we go for solar. But it seems that nobody goes for ethanol. Or it's unclear who can go for ethanol. Is it a farmer? Is it an oil company? Is it, well, my question is, could you identify who can be the leader in your innovative ecosystem in case you don't come up with a burgeoning ecosystem?
And from this experience, this second generation ethanol experience, I believe the companies that are doing better in this sector are that ones that combine the competence for ethanol, traditional ethanol industry, plus the knowledge and the skills of chemical industries. For example, a poet had a lot of experience in making ethanol and in the field, agribusiness. And DSM has all this knowledge about chemicals and enzymes and yeasts. So, and also here in Brazil, we have Raizen, that is a similar situation because has these skills from the mills and sugarcane industry. Also with the companies from Shell, Raizen is a joint venture between Brazilian companies from sugarcane and Shell. So I think that the cooperation here, it was really important, but the companies that were looking for to be integrated technology company here, for example, Gran Bio, it wanted to combine these different kind of players and to create these ecosystems, but in the end, it needed to access new knowledge and develop by itself new knowledge. So sometimes we think that the knowledge is already there, available. You just only need to make that partnership, but sometimes it's really hard. So I think for second generation ethanol, I think the better solution is to try to combine these two specific competence. The competence in producing the raw material, the sugar cane, bagasse, straw, or corn in United States situation, and the chemical knowledge about the biochemical knowledge about yeasts and enzymes. But it's really hard to tell. We don't know yet who will win this race.
And from the first ethanol generation, can we draw some lessons?
Brazil has a giant production of first generation ethanol. Brazil and the United States are the major producers of first generation. And I think for the cases in Brazil and United States, the transitions for a second generation makes all sense, because for example, in Brazil, you already have this material inside the facility, industrial facility. It's different in USA on where the straw is left on the field. So we have lots of experience in this industry. We have ethanol since the 70s. So it's a traditional and mature industry, and makes sense to make this integrated model into a more sustainable biofuel production.
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Daniela. It seems that you really handle very efficiently your topic, so congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Is there questions coming from the audience, or do we go for the second speaker? 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much, Daniela. And now we go for the second speaker. Thank you. So welcome, Stefan. You are working with Ksenia. Okay, makes very good. So we didn't hear you yet.
Okay, now it should work.
Okay, perfect. So the floor is yours for let's say 20 minutes, and then there will be time for questions.
Okay, thank you, Yannick. Good afternoon from Austria. My name is Stephan Cejka from Siemens Austria, Siemens Technology in Austria, and I'm going to present this work, blockchain technologies and peer-to-peer trading in energy communities, regulatory perspective. I work together with colleagues from the IAEE, with Ksenia, Poplavskaya, Caroline Monsberger, and Mark Stefan from the Austrian Institute of Technology. So this work, here you see the outline of this talk. I'm first introducing energy communities, naturally focusing on the European legislative and especially on the Austrian legislative. How is an energy community structured, and then going into more detail about possible technologies using in energy communities, especially as the title of the paper says, the blockchain technologies, peer-to-peer energy trading, then special focus on legal aspects of blockchain technology and peer-to-peer trading in energy communities, and especially in renewable energy communities, and finishing this talk with some discussion on smart contracts using in the peer-to-peer trading. So energy communities have been introduced in 2016 in the European Union's clean energy package, or first mentioned in 2016 and decided in 2018. The clean energy package aims to bring the European Union and its member states on track for 2030 climate targets. And this clean energy package consists of 8 legal acts, 4 of which are regulations, 4 of which are directives. And for the scope of this article and the scope of this presentation, especially the Renewable Energy Directive and the Electricity Directive are of main relevance. Of these directives, which need to be transposed into the national law of all European Union member states, some deadlines have already passed. For the Electricity Directive in December 2020, and for the Renewable Energy Directive, the deadline will be very soon, end of June of this year. Nevertheless, only very few European Union member states have already introduced energy communities and these directives to the full extent. For example, the Austrian draft of March 2021 is not yet decided and is now expected to come into force in summer or in fall of this year. These legal acts introduce some new actors to the energy market, which can be defined in 4 different levels, starting with the first level of single households, named in the directives as the renewables self-consumer. In this figure here, you can say that especially the houses A, D, E, and G will be possible or may be possible renewable self-consumers. Then the second level, multi-apartment buildings, where some or where many of these renewable self-consumers join forces and work together. But the level 2 is restricted to multi-apartment blocks or same buildings. Going on to level 3, which covers local or regional communities. They are called the renewable energy communities in the directives. You can see them here in 2 forms. I will mention in a minute why there are 2 forms of renewable energy communities. And there's even one larger community, the citizen energy community, which has no proximity criterion like the other levels, and could possibly or optionally or even spread across borders of the member states. So all of these 4 levels share common features. They are all involved in renewable energy projects, but there are also some differences from legal side, but also from the technical implementation. Opportunities for the participation increases the higher the level, mainly because of the wider operational area just mentioned, and also therefore an increasing number of possible participants. For the scope of this talk and for the scope of this paper, as we focus on peer-to-peer trading and there's no trading involved in level 1, we will just focus on the levels 2 to 4. And in a recently completed Austrian research project called Blockchain Grid, we have mainly observed these aspects, legal aspects, in the renewable energy community of level 3. The directives allow to define the proximity criterion, especially for level 3 on the member state level. Thus, they will be different across the countries. And the Austrian draft defines 2 different kinds of renewable energy communities. First, the local renewable energy community, which spans a smaller operational area than the regional renewable energy communities that you can also see in this figure. The Austrian proximity criterion is mainly based on a technical criterion, on the criterion of network layers, network levels, which is the network level 7 covering the low voltage grid, the network level 6, which is a transformer level to the medium voltage grid, the network level 5 is the medium voltage grid, and then the network level 4, which is a transformer level to high voltage grid. The local renewable energy communities are defined to operate on network levels 6 and 7, and regional renewable energy communities can furthermore cover also network levels 4 and 5. As I said, citizen energy communities are not restricted in any level. For energy communities, financial profits of the energy community itself shall not be the primary focus based on the directives, but the communities should help in environmental, social, and economy benefits on the local level. However, to make participants or possible participants join an energy community, it will be an important factor that participants save on their energy costs. For example, Austria discusses the reduction of grid tariffs, of taxes, and of fees for participants of the renewable energy community, also based here on the costs of the network levels. So in jointly acting renewable self-consumers, which were level 2, and which you can see in this figure as house B or house C, they do not use any public grid, and so they shall not pay any grid tariffs. Going on, local renewable energy communities shall only pay for costs incurred by network level 6 and 7, and regional renewable energy communities also for 4 and 5. And for citizen energy communities, as they can span all network levels and all even more than one distribution system operator, there are no reductions defined. It is expected that energy community may gain significance in the next few years to become an important element of future energy systems, as they are able to contribute to abating the effects of climate change, and they shall also be able to provide local countermeasures against electricity blackouts. Thus, energy communities have already been recognized in several national energy and climate plans that needed to be delivered to the European Commission 1.5 years ago. And also the recitals in the pre-definitions of the Renewable Energy Directive state that the participation of local citizens and local authorities in renewable energy projects results in more local acceptance of renewable energy and renewable energy projects. They also provide local investment by providing private capital that is invested directly into these local projects. This results in greater participation by citizens in the energy transition. The structure of an energy community will be different based on where this energy community is located, whether they are located in an urban or in a rural area. But in every energy community, it is required that there are some producers or prosumers. This means houses that are equipped with photovoltaic panels, some consumers, which are houses, but also, for example, e-mobility charging points, and there may be a community-owned storage unit for temporary storage of excess energy. So the energy community itself can temporarily store energy that cannot be allocated to a consumer at this given time, and further energy can be sold to a traditional purchaser. Likewise, remaining demand of the consumer that cannot be met by the producer of the energy community or of the battery storage is purchased from a traditional supplier. So excess energy that is produced by a producer in the energy community is primarily allocated to the consumers in the community itself. And there's, as I said earlier, this financial profit shall be able that the producer can get a little bit more money from selling his excess energy to the energy community or to the consumers in the energy community. And likewise, the consumer shall pay a little bit less than he needs to pay to a traditional vendor. This is possible by saving these grid fees, by saving in taxes and fees, and also that the energy community itself is not expected to make a profit. Break even is sufficient. Let's go to the next topic, which is the use of blockchain for the implementation of energy communities. The use of blockchain technology is increasingly tried and implemented in several areas, originally coming from the finance sectors and cryptocurrencies, but now going into several other areas, including the energy sector. And especially also for energy communities, the use of blockchain technology provides some attractive properties for new smart automated applications in these energy communities. They provide trustworthy solutions. They provide immediate transaction settlement, transparent accounting, and the dynamic management of grid usage. So innovative approaches such as the peer-to-peer trading, which we are talking in this talk, or energy concepts are much easier to be achieved with blockchain solutions, mainly also because of the restriction of participation in the energy communities. However, it is not clear at the moment, and will be discussed in the next years, how blockchain solutions per se can be regulated to be used. At the moment, it is not defined that blockchain or blockchain technologies, smart contracts, or peer-to-peer trading needs or should be used in energy communities. So there are quite some facts that are not yet defined, but there were research projects such as the blockchain grid project, where it was already discussed how blockchain technology can be used in energy communities. As I said, the participation in energy communities is restricted. For example, some traditional market players, such as distribution system operators or energy suppliers, cannot take part in an energy community. And thus we have also the problem that there's no designated authority for the operation of the community. However, the directives define that energy communities need to be incorporated in some legal form, for example, in any kind of association. Peer-to-peer trading is the direct energy trading between the prosumers and the consumers in the energy community, but not only in the energy community, like this figure shows from another source. The concept itself is not restricted to energy communities. So here we see a general architecture of peer-to-peer trading in a local energy market. Peer-to-peer trading itself is also shortly mentioned in the Renewable Energy Directive as the sale of renewable energy between market participants by means of a contract with predetermined conditions, and automated execution and settlement of the transaction is also mentioned. So it seems that the European legislation already gives directions into blockchain technology and smart contracts, but the peer-to-peer energy trading concept is then only once more shortly mentioned in the directives, and in this it is not very clear how and when peer-to-peer trading shall or shall not take place. Also, the Austrian draft does not have any reference to peer-to-peer energy trading. So to the legal aspects of blockchain and peer-to-peer trading in energy communities, it has been very widely discussed in the literature on legal problems with blockchain technology. By using blockchain technology, the various legal disciplines will be needed to be considered for the use of blockchain technology. For example, data protection is a big issue with blockchain technology that we also covered in previous work. And in previous work, we also tried to implement a prototype of a renewable energy community with blockchain technology, but also taking privacy into account. This is especially important since energy consumption data of households are counted as personal data, especially because high resolution meter readings are necessary that provide insights into the personal habits of households and in their inhabitants. By using smart meters, which are increasingly rolled out in various countries, also in Austria. Austria requires to equip at least 95% of all metering points until the end of 2022. I don't think that this will happen until then, because at the moment we are just at 30%. There's also an option to opt out of smart meters, but it will not be possible for participants of energy communities since high interval readings of the meters are required. One other question that is still open is that operation and reading of the meters in Austria is in the responsibility of the distribution system operator, and it still needs to be defined how and when data is delivered to the energy community operator. I will just shortly go over this slide as the time is running out. Data protection, as I said, is an important open question with blockchain technology. It is important in the energy community to define a controller, because the controller needs to be defined by the general data protection regulation, but it is not clear who takes over this role in a blockchain environment. Luckily, in an energy community, as I said, it is necessary to form the energy community in some legal form, and this legal form, this corporation, will be the controller of and responsible for complying with the GDPR. When using new technology, there were two concepts in the GDPR that should also be shortly mentioned, which is privacy by design at the first. It shall be, every new invention shall be designed in a way that privacy is considered from the beginning and not as a later add-on. For new inventions, it is possible to take privacy into account from the very beginning. And the other thing that shall be shortly mentioned is the data protection impact assessment, which is an evaluation for privacy breaches, and the DPIA is especially appropriate if you use new technological solutions in your invention, if there is data processing carried out on large scale, or if there's automated processing like smart contracts. All of these criteria applicable to the use of blockchain technology, and thus when using the blockchain technology, a DPIA is highly recommended. Going on with smart contracts. Smart contracts is a new innovative form to make contracts between two participants, not only in energy communities, but in any blockchain environment. Traditionally, there are contracts between two parties, and questions with smart contracts are especially if smart contracts shall be treated like traditional contracts. There are also many other questions with smart contracts also occurring from data protection law, which were not yet covered in detail in literature, but which will also, or which I expect to will be covered in the next years. Coming to the conclusions, the current European energy policy is mainly centered around integrating renewable energy sources and new technologies into the energy systems, and it is increasingly important to cover the consumer in the energy market. So it is renewable energy communities, or all energy communities, but especially renewable energy communities, are important to ensure or to improve active participation of consumers. They shall be able to cover their demand, generate also financial savings and values for the consumers, for the participants, and also for the community. Seeing it from a legal perspective, blockchain is not specifically mentioned in current European regulatory framework. Several issues, especially as I said, with data protection, still exist, but blockchain technology show that they are innovative, provide innovative approaches to the implementation also of energy communities. Peer-to-peer trading has firstly been mentioned in the directives, but only a first time. And I also expect that peer-to-peer trading will be, and it also needs to be tackled also from legal perspective in the future. So thank you for your attention. You find my contact data on this page, and I also want to point out to the extended paper which was written by us, and which I think will be available after the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan, for this very complete overview of the pro and cons of the blockchain technology. Is there some questions coming from the audience first? Okay, seems not. So I will give you my comments. First, what is the scope of the research you present? Is it a report that you do for Siemens? Is it a part of a PhD program? What is the goal of this paper?
We at Siemens Technology, we are also involved in research projects, not only in products per se, but we are designated research group. And in this research group, we're working on several topics in smart grids and smart buildings, also publicly funded projects. And in these publicly funded research projects, for example, the blockchain grid project, where we are working with AIT and other colleagues, we are tackling some aspects which we think might be relevant in the future for Siemens business. Okay.
Because from let's say an academic point of view, I'm professor in the academia. The problem of your paper is that it's not a research paper. It's a very well documented report that gives the state of art and the current situation. Sorry, the current situation of a technology deployment and the legal base of it in Europe. So it has an informative value. But it has no research proposal. To see it from the consumer point of view, what you say in this report is basically we are halfway between the innovation and the deployment. And if we want the deployment to take place, we need more regulatory issues to be solved because they are not yet, and we are in the middle of the river, and if we want to cross the river, we need complements, which is okay for a report that you want to show to the EU Commission, etc., etc. But if you want to discuss with academics, you need to order your requirements. So what is the first order magnitude of issues? Is it data privacy? Is it technology enabling? Is it real case studies? It is sandboxes that we have to implement. You know, we would like you to, at the end, to come up with a last slide or with a methodology to say, okay, we have 7 problems, and we can group these 7 problems into first order magnitude problems. If we solve these 2 problems, 90% of the deal is done. We still have details to solve, but the elephant in the room is killed, whereas the 5 other elements are less important. And what is striking in your presentation is it seems that everything is of equal importance, which is maybe true, I don't know, but it's surprising for an academic that you don't organize your request from the biggest to the smallest, or from the smallest to the biggest, depending on how you want to present it. But I am really surprised of the final conclusion, which is not, okay, what is the first thing we should do? And what is the second we should do? And how do we finalize the crossing of the river? Which is, I think, the missing part of this presentation. And once you have it, of course, to rebuild this first statement, to show that what is really needed is an improvement of technology, or of legal definition, or of privacy, or you raise a lot of points, but we would need to have or a model or a logical evaluation of the different points in order to rank them. But I don't ask you to do it right now. I don't know if it's feasible or even possible. It's a sort of, it's a very good report, but if you want to turn it into an academic paper, I think it needs to be reshuffled with a clear methodology that allows you to order the problems.
Yeah, the first thing is the presentation mainly comes from results from this research project, which has finished 3 months ago. So these are the results of the regulatory view on energy communities and on blockchain in energy communities. So that's the first point. And the second point is that as I said, that the deadlines are approaching or have already passed. There is legally very much in transition at the moment. So in conclusion, it's mainly what we expect, and in what happens in the next months or in the next year, but it's not what we could do or what we could influence, as the legal process is currently in transition.
Okay, thank you very much for your frank answer. Is there any other question in the room? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we go for the last presentation of the day. Please, Claire, the floor is yours.
Can you see my screen?
We do.
Okay. So good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I am Nhu from Purdue University, and today I will talk about our study on stochastically assess the financial feasibility of the production of biojet fuel using the catalytic hydrothermolysis technology. And this work, I work on this study with Dr. Tyner, and he's an expert in this field, but he passed away a year ago. So this can be seen as a final tribute to him, his final study, final article. So everyone, as I believe everyone is aware of how the transportation sector contributes to the amount of the greenhouse gas worldwide via burning of the fossil fuels. And so the consequences of burning fossil fuels is aggravating of air pollution and a rapid depletion of natural resources. And so the development and use of biofuels rises as one of the prominent methods for decreasing the use of fossil fuels. And in the US, there are a number of governmental programs to encourage the production of biofuels, such as the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, or LCFS, and the renewable identification number, or the RIN, and a number of other programs today. But for our study, we only incorporate the LCFS and the RIN. And there are also different biofuels, different pathways, such as the fast pyrolysis technology, or hydroprocessed either fatty acids or HEFA process, or the catalytic hydrothermolysis. And our study work on the CH process. And this is a summary of the presentation today, which has four sections here. And I will first introduce some of the features of the CH process and the feedstock that we choose for our study. So the CH process is the process of turning different types of oils and waste fats into renewable jet fuel, such as canola oil, jatropha oil, soybean oil, or brown grease. And the feedstock that we use for our study is the Carianata oil. However, in the US, Carianata oil is not available on the market yet. And so we have to use soybean oil price as the surrogate price, as the feedstock price in our study. So you can think of soybean oil price as the ceiling price for Carianata oil price. And there are a number of special features of the Carianata oil is to explain why we choose it. First is a clean source of feedstock, meaning that it doesn't require a lot of cleaning in order to be converted into highly quality biojet fuel. It's different from soybean oil. It doesn't induce land use change for the conversion process because it is a non-food feedstock. And the farmers can grow it during the winter as cover crops. And so that is an advantage over soybean oil. And it is also one of the few crops with sustainable certification from the Roundtable on Sustainable Biofuels. And lastly, the meal from the seed can provide high protein feed for livestock. So you can see that most parts of the plant are being used very efficiently besides the oil itself. And so next are the features of the CH process itself. So the process is 3 production phases, which I will elaborate on in the next slide. The process produces highly quality jet fuel that is nearly indistinguishable from petroleum jet fuel. And it is of so high quality that it actually can be blended with petroleum jet fuel at a high blend rate up to 50%. And the US Navy even flew flights before with unblended biojet fuel from this process. And it also produces valuable co-products, which includes biodiesel or naphtha. And also the process can recover valuable chemicals such as erucic acid, which is the chemical used as lubricants or a precursor for other products. And finally, the CH process consumes hydrogen and generates greenhouse gas less than the HEFA process, which is another advantage of this process. And these are the 3 phases of the CH process. The first phase is the catalytic hydrothermolysis phase, where the input oils enter. The second phase is the hydroprocessing. And the final phase is the fractionation, where we produce the output fuels, which include naphtha, jet fuel, biojet fuel, and biodiesel. There are many studies before that study that examine the financial feasibility of producing different types of biofuels using different feedstock and technologies. But we focused on the study of Macchiavi and Tyner because it is the only study so far to analyze the feasibility of producing biojet fuel from Carianata oil. They also use soybean oil price as surrogate price. And they also use the CH pathway with stochastic simulation. And there are a number of features of their study. So their study is based off the cost data in 2015, and they use the credit values for green and LCFS for April 2017. So it means that they use only one value of green and one value of LCFS. And in their study, the probability of loss is 100% without any governmental incentives, so without green and LCFS, and at best around 75% with government incentives, and that is with an nth brownfield with learning curve. And so in our study, we addressed a few some points that they haven't addressed in a very suitable way. So first, the conversion technology is upgraded continuously, and so that may impact the cost and the results. And so our study uses the most up-to-date technology data. The second, there are some assumptions that they may not precisely represent the historical trends. In particular, the assumptions that they make for the natural gas price, the feedstock price, or the jet fuel price, in the sense that they they don't follow the historical trends very well. And in our study, we follow the historical trends very closely, because we believe that the projection in the future would best follow the trends, the historical trends. And also in their study, the governmental incentives, and also in governmental incentives have changed sufficiently from 2017 to 19. And in particular, the green and green prices change continuously year by year. And they use only one value for green, one deterministic value. And so that may leave out some aspects of uncertainties. And so in our study, we model the green price stochastically. And so our study has the same question as theirs as to whether it's financially feasible to produce biojet fuel using CH process, considering the stochastic features of some cost and price items. And so our study can be regarded as an update for the McGavie and Tyner study, with improvements in approaching items with stochastic features. And we use at-risk simulation for our study with 5,000 iterations. So there are a number of deterministic elements in the project, such as the capital cost, the financial parameters, and the operating cost that are shown in the table here. And they are provided to us by the Applied Research Associates. And we allow the investment cost to fluctuate within a bound of plus minus 25% to account for uncertainties that may happen to the investment cost. The project will last for 23 years, with 3 years of construction, 20 years of production. And in year 3, we have half the production rate. Our goal is to find the net present value and the break-even price of a plant that produces biojet fuel using with the CH process. And so for the cost and for the cost items that for the items that don't have a are not likely to have a deterministic values, their values will change during the course of the 20 years of production, and the prices and the cost for those items need to be forecasted suitably. So the first item like that is the natural gas price. So as you can see in the graph here, the natural gas price doesn't follow, at least in the US, it doesn't follow any trend, no persistently up or down. But from 2009, there is a drastic change in the price from and later on. And so that is partially due to the boom in the shale gas. And so in order to project for the natural gas price, we first use the distribution fitting feature of at-risk from 2009. So we chose the triangular distribution because it's one of the best fit distributions, and it has an upper and lower bound, which prevents unrealistic outliers. And since there's no clear pattern for the historic trend, for the historic price of natural gas, we allow for the price of the natural gas for 20 years of production to follow the same triangular distribution that we found for the historic trend. For the next stochastic elements are the soybean oil and the jet fuel price. We project them together because in the graph here, in the historic graph trend here, we can see that they don't have, neither of them has a clear trend, just like natural gas, but they are highly correlated. And in fact, the correlation coefficient between them is 0.71, with the soybean oil price higher than the jet fuel price for most of the time, with an average difference of around $0.6 per gallon. And so we also use we first use the distribution fitting in at-risk for both of them, and we chose the PERT distribution because it is the best fit distribution and also has an upper and lower bound. And we applied the first distribution that we found for both historic price series on the forecasted price series for both of them. But we also condition on the two forecasted price series to have a correlation coefficient as possible to the historic correlation coefficient of 0.71, and at risk shows the results that the two projected price series have very similar patterns to the historic price series, in that they have a correlation coefficient of 0.68 and a price difference, an average price difference of around $0.56 per gallon. So that is very close to their historic trend. And so that's the reason why we believe that it is a realistic projection for those two price series. And once we have the projected jet fuel price, we can easily forecast the gasoline price and diesel price. So we forecast gasoline price because gasoline price is just the surrogate for naphtha. They are similar in terms of price. And so the reason is because in the graph here, we can see that the three price series follow each other very closely. And so the regression results show the relationship between them. And they have very high R-square too. And so with the projection of jet fuel price, we can, based on this relationship, to forecast the gasoline and diesel price. The final stochastic element is the RIN price, and in particular the D4 RIN price for jet fuel. So we figure that the historic D4 RIN price is highly correlated to the blend gap and the availability of the blended tax credit. The blend gap is just the difference between the price of biodiesel and the price of fossil diesel. And so, and this is the relationship between the historic RIN price and historic blend gap and availability of BDC. So in order to forecast the RIN price, we just need to forecast the blend gap and the BDC availability. For the blend gap, we simply use the forecasted biodiesel and fossil diesel prices. And to forecast the BDC availability, because the BDC is just available in a number of years. So in order to forecast for it, we first fit the binomial distribution on the historic availability of the BTC, and we use the resulted binomial distribution that we found and applied it for the to forecast the BTC availabilities for the 20 years production. And once we have the forecast of blend gap and BTC availability, we can easily find the forecast the D4 RIN price. And finally, the LCFS credit. It is not stochastic, but it's still varies by year because it depends largely on the carbon price. And so the LCFS credit depends on the value of the LCFS credit depends on the carbon intensity or the CI score of a pathway. And at the time of our study, there is the CH pathway that didn't have a CI score yet. So we use the average CI score of the pathways that use soybean oil, because those pathways produce very similar output fuels as the CH pathway. The difference is that the CH pathway with Carianata doesn't induce land use change, as I discussed earlier. And so the CH process using Carianata oil has a much lower CI score than pathways that use soybean oil. And as such, it also has a higher LCFS credit. And so here comes the results. The first part of the result is the distribution of the net present value as shown in the graph here. So the mean NPV without any incentive is around negative $920 million, and the 90% spread, so the 90% from here to here, this big part here is from around negative $1 billion to negative $800 million. And the maximum value, so the best that the project can do is around negative $700 million. And so obviously the probability of loss is 100%. But when green and LCFS enter, then the situation changes. And so as you can see, that the mean NPV with green and LCFS is around $62 million, and the 90% spread now becomes negative $64 million to $186 million. And the probability of loss decreases to 21%. So that is a drastic improvement from the case without incentive, and it is also much lower than the study of McGavie and Tyner results. And the final piece of the break-even price is the distribution of the break-even price. So the mean break-even price for our biojet fuel is $4.72 per gallon. And it is the price that makes the probability of loss becoming 50%, or the probability of earning the stipulated rate of return.
I just want to say that if there are 5 minutes left.
Yeah, or the probability of earning the stipulated rate of returns of 50%. And if the investors want to earn a stipulated rate of return in 75% of the times, then the break-even price has to be at least $4.86 per gallon. And if they want to earn a stipulated rates of returns in 90% of the times, the price has to be at least $5 per gallon. And so our mean break-even price is lower than the mean break-even price of McGavie and Tyner, which indicates that some improvements in their technology over time. And finally, the conclusion. So our study is based on based off a pioneer green fuel plant without any learning curve. So we can imagine that if we have an nth brownfield with learning curve, then we can save a lot of cost, and we can have a much more positive net present value. And regarding the break-even price, to put it in context, the kerosene type jet fuel price from 2017 to 19 is at most just over $2 per gallon, which is much lower than the mean break-even price in our study, which indicates the challenges of producing high quality biojet fuel due to the high production cost. But that is not a unique situation to just this process with soybean oil price as the feedstock price. Other studies also show that producing different types of biofuels using different feedstock and technologies also face high production costs and have a lot of troubles competing with petroleum jet fuel. But in those studies, and also in our studies, the main cost is the feedstock cost. And so in the future, once the Carianata oil is available on the market, and hopefully with a suitably low price, then we may believe that there can be a bright future for the process, for the pathway, even without governmental incentives. And so that's it for me.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation, Claire. I don't know how to pronounce your name in Chinese, so thank you to give us the opportunity not to destroy your name.
It's not really Chinese. I'm not Chinese, but yeah.
Okay, sorry. I'm complexifying my my situation of being incapable to pronounce that. If we come back to the work, first remark that comes clear for me is that it's a very impressive work.
Thank you.
You collect a lot of data. You have a very robust methodology. Your results are striking, and your final conclusion clearly shows that you master your field of research. So it's very interesting. Maybe one point you should add on your discussions is to emphasize maybe a little bit more the limitations of your work and the possible improvement, even if you are not going to make them, to give one or two tips for people that will want to use your methodology or to extend your work in the future, to give them some possible ways of improvement. It's clear for me that your work is almost completed now, so it's turn for you to start a new project or to spend time on packaging this project and publishing it, etc. But for the future work, I think it would be very interesting that you give us a little bit more about the possible rooms for improvement and extension of your work, because frankly, I think what you have did inside the paper is very strong. So it's just how to keep on working on that field to improve future research. It's the only thing that you could probably emphasize a little bit more.
Thank you for your suggestion. I will definitely do that in the future.
Is there other questions or comments in the room? No? Okay, I think we are all exhausted by this very long day. So I would like to congratulate all the speakers and to say to all of you, have a nice afternoon, morning, or evening, depending on where you are located. And I hope to see you tomorrow for the last day of this conference. Have a nice whatsoever it is, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Just like I would like to add in the end, just like don't forget to upload the presentation to the dashboard whenever it's possible, in case like you haven't done that yet.
Okay.
So thank you for the presentations, and as Srianik said, good whatever it is, like morning, afternoon, evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.